it seems like I am live. Cool. Let me just set up a few things quickly. Okay. Okay. All right, people are coming in. Hello, good evening, everyone. Good evening, good evening. Let's just wait just a couple more minutes so everyone joins. Hopefully, I am audible. Cool. Okay. Okay. While we wait for people to start, like join in, I do have one question, like just like the last time we had. Um, so, is there a company or a startup that you would love to join or work with? Do let me know in the comments while while we wait for more people to join. I would like to know. Okay. looks like I was on mute. So yeah, let me start from the beginning. So it looks like this is all the people we're going to have today. So yeah, and I do want to mention a couple of things before we get started. So as you know, we will be giving out the certificates to only those people who attend all the classes or sessions, right? And as well as attending all the classes will get you a chance to win a Duolearn kit. So the kit will be given to few selected people who attend all the classes. So inside the kit, which is going to come in a package like this with Duolearn's branding, you will get a t-shirt with Duolearn logo. It's exactly the one that I'm wearing right now, and few stickers that we have custom designed like this. So yep, this is the kind of the stickers you'll be getting, as well as not to mention our own designed custom notebook like this. So I hope you are kind of excited to get it. So that's those are the things I wanted to say. All right. So today's class is going to be about Tailwind CSS. Before we dive into Tailwind CSS, we will be taking a look at React Router, as that will kind of cover up some of the React basics that are kind of necessary you have to know. So without wasting much time, let's get to it. So I hope you have Node.js installed. If you haven't, you can just head out to Node.js, just search Node.js, and the first link you will find is of the Node.js itself. Go ahead, download the latest stable version, which is LTS for your respective operating system. So once you have that, you should be able to access Node like so. So if you have Node.js installed, and if you do node -c like this, it will spit out the Node version that is actually installed on your system. So yeah, make sure it's at least 16. I think the LTS right now is 18. Yeah, it's 18. So above 16 should be fine. All right. So I'm gonna head to my code directory. So this is where I keep all the code, and I'm going to run something called npx create npx create react app, and then app name is going to be my portfolio. So what I'm doing right now is this is a create react app is a kind of like a package that's going to create a React app on my local system with some scripts and boilerplate or starter code setup. And npx is a tool that executes these binaries by downloading them directly and running them directly. And these tools will take up some arguments, such as create react app will take my portfolio or anything you give as the name of the project you're going to the react app project that you're going to create, right? So once we press enter, it's going to create us or set up a React project for us. So as you can see, it's installing these 3 packages that are necessary to develop React applications. So we have React, React DOM, and React scripts. I hope you have learned about what React and React DOM do in the previous class. React scripts is just another package that gives us some scripts that are useful for development and production use cases. All right, so it's about to get completed. All right, so it's done. So what you have to do is you have to cd into your project. So that is, in my case, is my portfolio. Once you're there, I'm going to open my code editor in here. So you can do code doc. If you have VS Code installed, this will automatically open that up. If you do not install that by VS Code, by just googling VS Code, and yep, you can download it here. Cool. So just go ahead and install the one required for your operating system. Once you have that installed, you should be able to do code dot anywhere, and the code editor should open up like this. In case it doesn't, just open my open VS Code and do file, click on open folder, and then you can select your portfolio, your React project that was created by Create React App. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and see what we have been given. I'm going to zoom in this a little bit and get it to the center of my screen so you can see it properly. All right, that should do it. Cool. Let's see what we have here. So we have a package JSON file. So this file gives information about the project we have. So it has the list of dependencies that we use. We won't be using any testing libraries here, so you can just ignore them. And we all know what React and React DOM does. They basically are, the necessary libraries you need for React applications. And then we have React scripts that basically, being used here in multiple scripts here. So scripts are basically something you can have for your Node.js projects. So React is sort of like a Node.js project. You can say that. And these scripts, you can run them as well. So by doing npm start or npm build, npm test. So these are all the scripts you can run. And what will those scripts do is given here. So they will run these scripts instead. Demo. Okay, yeah. We will not be showing the demo right now, but we will be doing layout. We can show the demo in the tomorrow's class. So yeah, anyway, today is the day we're going to actually start building the actual portfolio. So you can see the components being developed one by one, and you can see how it all adds up together, building a developer portfolio. Cool. And so yeah, we have the package JSON here. So that's what it is about. It keeps track of the dependencies you install and the scripts you can configure and bunch of other stuff. Package log JSON, this is like a more like an extensive version of package JSON. It keeps track of all the packages that are being used by even the dependencies you actually use and stuff. So yeah, you can also kind of ignore this because we will never touch this to make any changes. So any changes that happens to this will automatically happen when we install new dependencies or remove them. Then we have git ignore file, which means if you are familiar with Git, this file will help us not track certain stuff, that are not essentially the source code, such as build here, right? And what build does is when we do a build command, it's going to give us the production build. A production build is something that you will actually show the world, right? Which is what you'll actually host somewhere on your servers or any Netlify or some stuff. So that kind of thing is not necessary to commit in your Git because those kind of things can be generated with the source code. Okay, then you have public, you have some images here and then it's index.html file. So this will be the entry point of our React application. So inside this ID root is where our application React app is going to render the main component. And under that main component is where we will actually have all our React components. I hope you're familiar with what React components and all are from the previous class. If you aren't, do check yesterday's class and you will get a hang of React. Just enough so you can just build your portfolio as well. Okay, all right. Yeah, so then we have the src folder. So this is where all the major source code is going to lie in. All right, so we have app.js here. So app.js is the component that is the root component. Basically, this app component is what going to be rendered sort of in place of in this id root, right? That's being configured in here. Okay, this file will render the app component in the root element of the index.html file here. Okay, I hope that's clear. Yeah, so you can see we have given some css and stuff, and we won't be needing some of the things they have given, such as this report vitals thing. We won't be needing that, so I'm just gonna go ahead and delete them, trash, and remove this as well. Okay, now let's start the React application to see what we have given. So you can also use the terminal that is inside VS Code as well. So if you do control tilde, you will see a terminal pop up like this. Okay, so I'm gonna run npm run start. Now what this means is we are using npm to run a script called start. Now start, where is this configured, right? If you remember, it is configured in here in package.json. You can see the start command here. So this will execute React script start, which is essentially a tool that will run our application in a development server. Okay, now let's go ahead, run this, starting the development server. Okay, you can see the browser automatically went to localhost 3000. Cool. So we have our simple React app set up for us. So this is it. And cool. Let's see how we can add React router to it. So React router allows you to have multiple pages in a single app, right? Okay, cool. Let's see what we have here. Kind of feel like it's already been, okay, it's not set up, right? Cool. So the first thing you want to do is actually install the React package, right? The package that is responsible to give us the functionalities to have multiple pages in our React app. You see, any React app, any plain simple React app that you create is essentially a single page application. What a single page application means is that everything that you see on an app is just a single page. You cannot have multiple pages. Even the servers that configure React built applications that are client side rendering and are SPA or single page applications do not have more than one page, right? And if you try to go to some other page, you will likely to get a 404. Now these web servers that actually have to show a React app are configured in such a way that any page will redirect to the home page. Now what happens then is your React app is supposed to understand the URL, like what page you're trying to see, and a component should be shown as per that page. So that's basically how a simple page application and showing different pages in a single page application works. All right, so that's about why we need this, or how does routing and showing different pages work. So I'm gonna do npm install. We will need React router DOM to actually do all the stuff we just discussed about. Okay, so let's start using React router DOM. So I'm going to remove this stuff that is given to us by React. this, you can see all of that is gone, because the development server works in a way that anything you do, any changes you make, will reflect as near real time. Okay. Cool. So in order to use React router, you have to do three things. Or in order to have dynamic routes, you have to do three things, right? First, you have to set up your router. Router is what will be responsible for doing all the routing stuff. Then you have to set up your routes, right? And then you have to specify what do you want to render in your routes, right? All right, let's get started with that. Okay, so first you need to import something called a browser router. Now, React Router DOM has multiple routers for different type of application. We're going to use browser router. Browser router from React Router DOM. We have this, and we're going to wrap our app. Actually, we should be using this inside in here, where we're actually going to wrap our app inside the browser router. So okay, now the first step is done. Basically, this is what you need to have that routing functionality in the React app. Now this is set up. What we next have to do is configure routes, right? So like example, right, you have a lot of pages. Let's just take this for example, right? The VS Code website. So under /download, we see this page. And if we go to docs, this takes us to /docs. And under docs, we see all of this stuff, right? So how do we do this in React? Because there is no straightforward way you can do this. And how we can do this is by using React Router DOM. Okay. Now we are set up router basically. Now we have to specify the routes, right? What do you want to render in different pages? So for that, we have to use some more components that is provided by React Router DOM. So those will be, we're going to import routes and routes from React Router DOM. Okay, and what you have to do next is, so we're going to remove this. So we'll have routes, and inside routes we're going to specify each route. Okay, let's say for example, this is one route we have, and we can have, let's have one more route. Let's have three routes totally, and we have to specify the path for each route. So let's say what do you want to render in your home page, which will be just a slash. So to actually specify what do you want to render, there's another prop called element. So whatever you pass to element will be rendered at home page. So for now, I'm just going to pass an h1 that says home route. Okay, and I'm going to copy this basically. I'll call this profile, I'll call this projects, because you might have multiple pages on your portfolio for different things. And let's also change what the content is inside. Let's say profile route, and this will be projects route. Now let's see if this works. Let's go to localhost 3000. You can see it says home route. Now let's try going to profile, right? We have /profile, it says profile route. And let's try to go into projects. That's what we have, projects route. Now this is all working because all of that thing is being passed down to our router, right? So how can we handle a route that does not exist? Now let's see what happens if I try to go to some other route. Let's say I want, say I give bio. See, nothing renders. So there's a way we can handle such routes as well. Okay. So anything else that is not matching this will be something like a wildcard. We can treat it as a wildcard. So a wildcard basically means possibly anything, right? That could be anything. So I'll just say element h1 not found. Okay, you can see it says not found now. So that's how you can handle a 404 error, or basically when someone tries to visit a page that is not on your app. This is how you can handle it. Cool. So that's about React router, how you can do, how you can set up routes in your single page application. So just to recap, you first set up a browser router which will wrap your main app component. It could be, some people call it app, some people call it main, but most of the times it will be an app component. That is the root component, and inside that app component you will have routes set up. So this is like the central part of the routing system, right? This tells you which thing goes to where, basically. Okay. So yeah, this is about routing. Now let's move on to start getting with Tailwind JS, right? Now let's talk about Tailwind now. Right? It's a interesting piece of technology, I would say. When I first about Tailwind, I honestly did not like it because it just felt like writing too much stuff for simple things. Or and when things got complicated, you would actually see a lot of stuff. It almost looked like random text that's kind of being inside your code. But actually, when you start using it, you start to realize that it's actually a pretty cool library to have, right? So what exactly is Tailwind CSS? Now, Tailwind CSS is an utility, or a CSS utility framework. As it says here, a utility first CSS framework packed with classes. So almost every style that you can think of is broken down and can be configured as a class, right? So each class will carry 1 or 2 lines of CSS code that you can apply to your components. Like for example, you might have something called a flex class like this, which will have display flex as style. So instead of you writing that and passing that to every component, Tailwind kind of does that for you, and you can just use these classes that will apply styles for it. So I'll show you what's in the docs, right? So if you see first fundamentals or something like this, so I'll just show you this thing basically. Let me zoom in a bit. So these are the classes that Tailwind gives you, and these are the properties that are applied when you use this particular class. You can see that it follows a pattern basically. So P means padding, and yeah, PX means padding on x-axis, meaning left and right, and PY means padding on the y-axis, top and bottom. So you can see the corresponding CSS it is applying. Now, how is Tailwind CSS different from other UI libraries or framework you have used? Let's take Bootstrap for example. Now, Bootstrap is a component-based library, right? So there are so many components available in Bootstrap that you can directly plug into your application, right? That kind of a library is useful when you want a simple generic UI, but you should use Tailwind CSS when you have to build your UI from scratch for your own styles, or when you have your own design system. Now, design system and stuff is what we will be discussing later. We will be discussing that in your boot camps, but we might be having a separate workshop for that as well, just for the design system as well. Yeah, so a design system basically means your own design, your own specifications for how each and every component like button, card, badge, alert should look. So that's called a design system. And when you have your own design system, Tailwind CSS can come in handy, but to create them. Because if you were to write all those CSS yourself and define classes for them, that's a lot more burden. So you can just use the Tailwind CSS to apply these classes as styles to build your design system. So I think that I've said enough about what Tailwind CSS is and how it is different from other similar libraries or other UI libraries. I hope that clears the top. So it's really utility based, really low level. Really low level means you have very much control, but also means you have to do bunch of stuff from scratch yourself. Right? It will not give you things out of the box. The only thing it gives you is a bunch of styles and class names for it. You can see how this document is pretty good, and you can use this to build pretty much anything you can imagine as well. Okay, they do have actually a components thing, which is, if you actually look at them, let's take for example this tables one. This is not free, it seems. Let's see. Yeah, so if you look at the code for this one, it's again completely Tailwind CSS, right? You can see all of these Tailwind classes being used for this. So these components again, which is provided by the Tailwind team itself, is actually using the Tailwind itself. And this might look intimidating to see a bunch of these classes just thrown away, but if you're as you start getting comfortable with CSS and Tailwind, this will start become easier to understand, easier to write as well. So a tip, if you're going to use Tailwind UI in your applications or Tailwind CSS in your application, is try to keep your UI components as separate as possible from the whole application. So that way you do not see all of these classes and a bunch of logic together, and it will make development harder and harder to understand as well. Even might as well make it easier to debug if you keep it all separate. Okay, now that's that. Let's go ahead and install Tailwind in our application. So Tailwind CSS have their own guide for us to install it in Create React app. So if I go to installation, yeah. Actually, they have a doc for Create React app itself. Yeah, framework guides, Create React app. Okay, we have to install these dependencies. So let's copy this. All right, okay, let's paste this. So -d means it's a development dependencies, meaning these dependencies will not appear in your production build, and these are also not needed in your production build. What you will actually need is things that are created from it. So Tailwind CSS will generate a CSS file that you can use in your production. So thereby the code for these dependencies actually not needed in production when you build a production build. All right, which we will be talking about when we actually build it and deploy it in the last session. Okay, then we have to run this command. So this will set up a configuration file so that we can configure Tailwind CSS how we want. All right, cool. So you have to change the content configuration. This basically tells Tailwind where to look for the Tailwind classes so that it can compile it. All right, sorry about that. I am back. So, yeah, like I was saying, content is what the Tailwind will look for to basically create classes. All right, so we have to specify content in here, and this would be something like src, and we'll be having components folder, and inside that it will be could be using mostly JS file. So it will be like wildcard dot JS. So basically telling Tailwind to look for JS files, any JS files inside the folder components. Okay, let's create folder components. Component. And let's create a file, let's say button, right? Let's try to create a button with Tailwind.js. Okay, we have a JS file inside folder components. Let's see what else we have to do. We have to add Tailwind directives. So directives are basically some sort of execute, like basically they apply stuff to your CSS or your components basically. So we have to specify this in our entry file, which will be the index CSS, entry CSS file, you may say. I'm going to add it at the end. We actually don't need any of this as well. Remove this. You can see it's saying as unknown utterl Tailwind. It is because the editor doesn't know that we're using Tailwind, right? So in order to like avoid this or just get it out of our face, what we can do is we can install an extension that is provided by Tailwind. It's called Tailwind IntelliSense. Make sure you install this one, which is the official one, Tailwind CSS IntelliSense. So this should fix that issue. Okay. Doesn't seem to have it fixed. Let's see if we can reload the code editor. Maybe it'll work. Okay, I'll just open VS Code again. Let's see if that's get it fixed. Okay, you can see that it is still there. All right, but yeah, we can ignore that. According to the docs, this extension should actually fix it. Not sure why it's still showing this. All right, let's move on. Let's not spend too much time on stuff that doesn't matter much. All right, so let's start the dev server again. Start npm run start. I'll open up another terminal where I will run commands. Okay. All right, I'll close this extensions thing. All right, let's create a simple React component. So const button equals to, let's return an HTML button, right? I'll say this hello, and just export this. By default it's button, and let's import this button in our app.js in our home route, and let's render it over there. Okay, let's go to the home route. Yep, this is the button, which doesn't look like a button at all. All right, you can see it's a button. So let's give this some style. So we can go ahead and do class name, and let's say we can start applying the CSS, Tailwind CSS now. Means we can use Tailwind classes. So let's give this background color of white. White would not make it look. Let's give it a BG purple 200, and width 10. Let's see if this is working. Doesn't seem to have applied. Let's check the docs again if we have missed anything. This is what they have given us. Let's see. All right, button here, button is inside components, and we have specified in the content that we will use using this. I think I should have specified it like this. Let's see. Okay, have the classes applied. We don't see the styles coming up. It's probably because of this. Let's look at the docs again. Second, I'll check. Let's see what we're missing. Okay. I think we'll have to set up now a Tailwind watcher, which will kind of watch for the file changes and then generate Tailwind CS. So let's see how we can do that. So let's go with Tailwind CLI instead, where we have like, yep, this is the watcher we can use. Okay, I'll copy this and let's paste it over here. And this input CSS is where the directives that you have used should be. In our case, it is style.css, right? src, it's index.css, and output is dist output.css. Okay, let's see, making it dist. Yeah, cool. Let's have this, and you can see we have a dist here with output css, and this is all the css that's being used from Tailwind from us. Let's see if we have the button styles we were using. Basically, is invalid, it says. So apparently this one is invalid. Let's try like this pattern. Did it generate now? Looks like it. No. Okay, it still says the same. Let's see how they have given it. Just copy paste this. Okay, let's see. It's rebuilding. Okay, let's check the output CSS now. Yep, we have W10 here, which is what we used in our button.js. See here, W10. So the style for this was generated. So Tailwind watches over these files that we have configured in Tailwind config, right? And whenever we use any of the utility classes, it is going to write the styles for it by its own standard, right? So you can see what are the styles it's going to generate from the documentation, like how we were looking for the padding stuff and all. So similarly, what I did was I used a width style width class they have, which is width 10. So W10, which will add a width of 2.5 rem. Now let's look at the code. Let's look at the output. You can see it has width 2.5 rem and it has a background color of purple. So I'll add a little padding to it. Let's add P5. So it's starting to look like this, and let's make it width 100%. Let's see what we can do for 100% width. So for 100%, can use W full. So this will take up the full width, the content, like so. Okay, that's how you can use width. Right, so and then there might be cases you want to add your own kind of width. So at that case, what you can do is you can use the square brackets like this, and you can specify your own CSS in here that will be applied to the width. So let's say you want something like 2.9 rem, which is not a standard in Tailwind CSS by them. So if I do this, it will have 2.9 rem applied like so. You can check this. Now the width has 2.9 rem. So this is how you can give your own CSS a value for any CSS property you want. So W means width, and you can specify your own thing like this. Now, the component we actually want in our portfolio is any portfolio you take or any website for that sake. It usually have a navbar, and let's try to build a navbar, right? I'm going to take a button out of the index.js page, the home page. Okay, and gonna create a component called navbar. There seems to be a question. Can you explain what you did with W10? What I did with W10 is, so W10 was actually a Tailwind class, right? Tailwind class, which you can find on the documentation. So how the way to think about when you're using Tailwind CSS is you have to think from the CSS point of view. And so let's say you want to apply width padding or something. You go to the docs, you check for that particular style. So let's say, for example, I want to have width to a certain div, certain button or anything. So what I'll do is I'll go to the docs and I'll search for it. So let's say I click here to search and I'll say width, right? And I'll see width come up under sizing. So I'll go out there and I'll check all the classes that are available in Tailwind CSS. And I just took W10 because that seemed about right for my button, and I just used it over here, W10. And then what happens is that we have now configured something called a Tailwind watcher. What this watcher will do is whenever we use a utility class from Tailwind, it's going to generate the styles for it. So you can see this style, right, with 2.5 rem. This will not be there by default. So Tailwind is very, very optimized for, very optimized. It's just optimized. So therefore it will not have these styles by default. And when you do this, when you apply this utility class and Tailwind sees that, it's going to write this style into your app, right, which is the output CSS here. So that's what it did. Hope that clears that up. And yeah, so let's go ahead and build a simple navbar for our portfolio. Okay, there's another question. What does .ignore file contain? It just contains the stuff that you do not want to track, basically. This is the stuff you do not want to track for multiple reasons, such as like I explained earlier, that you do not want your build to be tracked, because build is something it can be generated based on the code base itself. So therefore committing it is just a waste of like git storage or something, you could say. When you're cloning and stuff, it's just extra files to download, extra files to track and stuff. So there is no practical need to track production build. That's what git ignore is for, to not track this stuff. So another major thing you do not want to track is node modules. Node modules is a directory with so many a bunch of things that are generated when you install packages for your application. And since this entire folder is generated with the help of package.json, this kind of is not necessary, and it's too huge to simply track it. All right, so that's kind of what the git ignore contains and why it contains it. All right. Right, so I think this class is going to be a little bit longer, and just before I end it, I will share the attendance link. So I guess I'll just take 10 more minutes and we'll quickly build this navbar component. Right. Okay, all right, so how do we want, so let's build a navbar that kind of is sort of a dark theme. So I'm imagining a dark theme navbar with just my name as the portfolio owner's name on the top left. So it looks something like this. So I'll have a div, and instead of navbar, I'm going to use the nav element, which doesn't have any styles to it per se, but is this what you call a semantic HTML, right? These things will tell you what the component is about. Rather than div is not going to tell much what the component is about, but nav will tell that it's going to be a nav bar. So let's export this default nav bar. So I'm going to write some class names to this. Let's have this bg white. So I'm assuming this suggestion that I'm getting is from that Tailwind's plugin we just installed. And if you're in dark mode, I want this to have a separate style. So I want this to have a bg of gray 800. So it's going to detect your theme by your settings, such as the system settings. And yeah, this is a way of applying styles on conditions or pseudo classes as well. Okay, inside this, I want a div that will have a class name. Let's have a little padding on top and left. Top and bottom. So you will use px for that. And how much do you want? I want 8. 8 meaning it will be something else in Tailwind. So if we just check the Tailwind for padding, 8 would mean, let's see, what would 8 mean? Scroll down, 8 would mean 2 run. That sounds about right for an navbar. Just 2 runs of padding on top and the bottom. Okay, we'll have mx auto. Let's have the margin be auto, and we'll have a max width of 7 XL. Okay, this is the max width property, so you can check that out as well if you want max width like this. Okay, now let's take a look how it's looking so far. We have to import this navbar in our app. So I'll say in here, just have navbar in our main page. And see how this is looking. Yeah, so you can see we have this. Since it's by default white, it might not be able to see it. Let's just change this to maybe purple for now. Gray 800. I think I'm in dark mode, so it's gray actually. Okay, since there's no content in it, it's possible we're not able to say this. Let's give this a height. Let's give this a height in here of let's say 8, and now we can see this navbar coming up. All right, so let's go ahead. Let's write the rest of the navbar div, and let's make this a flex. So I hope you're aware what flex is about. It basically used when you want a single dimension layout. And let's center the items. So this is justify items center. So you can learn about all the classes available for Flex. If you do a Flex search for this, you can then see all the Flex options like this: justify items and items, align items styles, and the classes for it. So I'm using item center. This will align center inside center vertically. Okay, so we have that, and inside this I will have a h2. And h2 is going to be my name, so that they know this is my portfolio. And let's give this some classes. So I'm gonna give this text white class, so that it's visible in my grayish background. So you can see it came now. All right, and let's make this a little bigger, maybe text to Excel. Right, that's looking good. There, I think our navbar is now ready. Let's see how it looks. All right, it's looking good. Even on the desktop view and as well as mobile view, it's looking pretty good. And we have a simple navbar setup. So coming classes, we will be planning out the layout for the developer portfolio of ours, and we're going to build the rest of the UI in the coming next 2 days. All right, so that's about this class, and we will be committing this to Git and be providing the GitHub URL that for the portfolio. If you already don't have it yet, I don't think we have shared it yet, but we will share it as soon as we push this to Git. So that's about CSS. I'm going to share the QR now, and after that we can have any Q&A if you guys have any questions. So let me quickly share that. All right, so this is the QR. Please scan this for your attendance. And while you scan, please do ask any questions in the comments or chat, and I'll be happy to answer that. Oh yeah, let me share the link as well. Yes, we do give e-certificate which is verifiable by anyone. So the certificate will have a QR code in it, which if you scan it, it will go to our verified domain where you'll be able to verify the certificate. I've posted the link as well. I'm gonna spin it as well. And yeah, just to be clear, the certificate is provided for the whole workshop, not for this particular class. Hello Teja. It seems you're saying you're not unable to render the navbar. Uh, Make sure you have actually using the component in your app.js, and that you're returning this, you're exporting it. Make sure all of this is happening, and do check, uh, do inspect your browser to see if it's actually being rendered, to see if it's a rendering problem or the styling problem. You'll be able to understand. And if you still have problems, you can ping us just on the Discord channel, and we'll help you out. Yes, we will provide the certificate even if you do not submit the project. Uh, hey Teja, it's good that you were able to render it now. And Lokesh Kumar seem to have a problem with the attendance link being expired. Okay, do mail us, and we'll see what we can do. Okay, we're gonna end the stream now. Thank you guys for coming. Hope you had enjoyed the class and learned something, and hope to see you in the next class soon. Bye everyone, take care.